Hey, good morning, everyone. We are going to talk about one of my favorite topics. Let me share my screen, and we will start right in on falling in love with time. Now, this is a class that I will often teach for professionals, for anyone who is learning to understand time management. And a lot of people are very good at task management, but they really don't understand time. So, the best first piece of advice that I give everyone is that time requires a little bit bigger conversation. So, why do I love it? I love it because you hear this from me all the time. Money only buys you one thing, it buys you time. And so does time. Time will give you the ability to make lots more yummy choices with your life. And what you want to do is you want to kind of figure out that luscious part, that luscious part of your time. And when we think about that luscious time, it is also reflecting on what is your current relationship with time management. And time management is really a chance that, well, first of all, I would make sure you have a place to write notes because this is a 50 deck slideshow. So there's a lot of information. This is packed with information. And you want to pause it, write stuff down, come on back. That's why I recorded it this way so that if you saw this live in a session, or if I was at your office or I was at your community program and you saw this, you can come back and watch this online because it's such a large amount of information and there are so many different techniques and other ways to think about time that it's just a really action-packed video. So the first thing is reflecting on your time management. It's really assessing your current relationship with your time management tools. So that would be really understanding how you're using your calendar, how you're using your day. Are you creating downtime? Are you doing a year in at a view? What are you doing? And really assessing all the tools that you have. Some of you are writing small notes. Some of you are using 3 by 5 cards. Some of you just have a desk that looks like pure chaos. Some of you have these screens on your home screen that is just filled with reminders. Some of you use your phone. So I would think about the time management tools that you're using. And I would add in there also the things that you're managing, perhaps like your Fitbit. Some of you are clocking steps, that some of you are using other types of tools. So just assess and write down what are the tools that you're using. And I would also recognize if you're just not connected to those tools or if you're kind of burned out. A lot of people are burned out on the tools that they're using and they just ignore them. So, really looking at, are you feeling disconnected from the tools that you have? And are you just burned out in general? The other thing that I want to have you work on is reflecting on the aspects of your schedule that bring you joy and the ones that bring you pain and stress. So for me, parts of my schedule is like rounding up everybody after school. It's just horrible because it's rush hour traffic, everybody's hungry, it's the end of the day, I've had a fatiguing day. So daycare picking up kids in the car is just ridiculous. Especially I live in the Midwest, so sometimes it's snowing or raining. So those are times in my schedule that are very tense and problematic, and I don't want to multitask. And then there are other times that are really happy and joyous, right? So I like having a rainy morning to be able to do our meal planning or something that is, I love having just a morning where it's quiet and it's joyful. I can read the paper, I can make waffles, and it's just great. So I would think about the aspects of your schedule that are also blissful. What is working? And when we are looking at kind of our goals today, it's really understanding how you're going to partner with time. So I really encourage everybody to I've got a couple slides in here that will get you thinking about time differently, but to take some self-reflection on the parts of time that really excite you and bring you fulfillment. So that might be time away on a vacation, that might be time spent with a loved one, that might be time spent doing creative projects that I would start thinking about when is it hard, when is it sticky, and when is it really necessary, right? When do you find that you need these little pieces? The other thing we're going to talk about is delegation and collaboration as a tool to really figure out what tasks can be delegated, that it's actually the higher up the echelon of pay that you are, the less desirable it should be to do tasks that someone at a different echelon can do for money, and it's just costs a lot less. So especially for those of you who are have a high per hour base, or it just doesn't make sense to clean your own house. It just doesn't make sense to use your time that way. It makes sense to use your time differently. So when you're thinking about that, think about how can you collaborate? What are the things that you can do that will be more beneficial with another person? So think about how you can collaborate with others. I have a big collaboration project right now on a creative project that is really fun, and it really fires me up in the other parts of my life. So sometimes you just collaborating with someone can really give you more energy, and it makes your time feel just so special. Number 3 is creating a game plan. What I would like you to do is I'd like you, as we go through the slides, there's right, we still have 45 slides left, that you really want to start kind of creating a game plan. So I would kind of put a line in your paper, just to make a column on the side, on the left or the right, and use that as kind of a scratch post, and really start, as we go through the slides, start putting into that sidebar things that are really going to be helpful to you. And I have taught this class enough times to know that 0 people, 0 out of the hundreds of people who have been in class with me on this topic, 0 people have not found that sidebar very, really, really insightful. So when you have something that you go, oh, something just came to me, because there's a lot of information here and we're going to be clicking through very quickly, use those notes to put into your sidebar to go, oh, yep, this is something I need to remember. This is something I need to remember. So even if you're putting other big notes into the main page, use that sidebar, use that little part to go, oh yeah, I'm a visual learner, or oh yeah, I want to look up that book. So if you are looking at that, you're really looking to create a game plan. And that game plan is to fall in love with your time management. Lots of people confuse time management with task management. While they are symbiotic and why they are often Siamese twins, they are not the same thing. So as we talk about time here, you'll get to understand this is a much more expansive conversation. It's not a tiny trail. It's like the picture in the left. It's this huge valley that you get to walk through of all the things in that in that environment. So the other thing is, number 4 is sustaining passion. You have to understand that your time changes, that the time of your life changes, the season of your life changes. So all the tools that you're using will also change. So the things that worked for you in college may not be the same things that are working for you as someone who is running a family, or someone who's running a business, or someone who is working in an executive capacity. So you want to be able to learn as many strategies as you can so that you can stay in love with your schedule. You want to look at time as this beautiful love affair that helps you keep being fulfilled. So one of the things that I've got a couple of things that are kind of a deal that you and I have to make on how can we make time management really great. And the first is that we have to use today to shape the future. And that is the first way to fall in love with time, is that you're recognizing that the role of all of the things that you're putting into your present actions today is for the purpose of shaping your future. So you're making decisions around time that are for you to love your future self. So when we are looking at some of those actions, that action might be the fact that I'm in a savings program for retirement, or I'm in a savings program for my kid to go to college, or I'm in a savings program to buy a house, or I'm in a way to get debt free, or that I'm trying to get an education. There are many things that you are doing with your time in your present action that are shaping the future. So think about what are the things that are happening right now that your future self is going to love you for. Are you getting in shape? Are you taking good care of your health? Are you really enjoying reading for a purpose? Not just luxury reading, but reading for a purpose. Are you getting smarter on something? Are you improving in your life? So that's the first deal we have to make. And that is the first tool in how to be great at time management is recognizing that piece. The role of the present, of your present actions is shaping the future. And this is the kind of warning bell that I give everyone is that if you stay the same and don't do anything and just, right, if you were in class and you were actually just doing with me and you were just doing all your email, this is where everybody stops doing that because I go, look, the cost of you staying the same costs you something. Staying the same costs you something. And that's the second thing we kind of have to agree on that I haven't met a person yet that says, "Oh, Mickey, not anything in that class was good for me." Not yet. I mean, it's thousands of people that I've talked to because the way that people manage time always has to improve. It always has to change because you are improving. You are changing. The world is changing. Tools are changing. So you want to think about the fact that if you stay the same, it costs you something. It doesn't make it easier. So I always say, if you're going, meh, it's not, blah, blah, if that's the way that you feel about how you're managing your time, it's going to be very uncomfortable for you. So you want to understand that time is something that does require management, that time will cost you. It will cost you your most precious resource if it is unmanaged and just simply comfortable. So you want to look creatively at your life and you want to look at creatively at what your life would look like if it were different, if the time that you had was managed in a way that felt differently. And the number one thing that I remind people about is that if you are in sync with your time, if you are in sync with the time, the present, right now, if you are in sync, that's mojo, right? We've all gone, oh yeah, I got my mojo on. I was so great. I was really into it. I was completely immersed in the situation. Mojo is fire energy. And that is the critical part that everyone has to learn is that if you want to be in mojo, that is fire energy. And that is that feeling of that internal desire to actively approach, right? So that's agency. We have a feeling of agency. Agency is mojo, mojo is fire energy, and that's what everyone wants. Now, I will tell you the opposite of fire is what is burnout. So, and while it's not a medical condition, it is the fact of burnout is it's a thief. It's a thief that takes things from you. So you want to think about how how often are you in mojo? How often are you in burnout? And how often are you in this middle space where you're just like, meh, just kind of floating along. I'm just floating along. Well, that floating along time and the time in burnout both have a cost. And mojo energy has a reward because it's energy giving, it's life giving. So you want to be able to do that. And so when we think about time, I need you not to just consider it as just this finite resource. It is something that loves to be cared for, remembered. It is caressed. Time is a celebration, that we should be coming into the day to really honor the time, not the tasks, but the time. You have all day today. You have this moment. You have this day. You have a duration. And when I say you have to understand time very differently, is to think about these words, that it is a duration. Sometimes you are just a chapter in your life, right? See how it's expanding, it's an interval. Sometimes it's a phase. When I have parents with young children, I always say to them, oh my gosh, 9 to 11, it's magic. You've got to enjoy this phase with all of these types of things. That there are some things you can only get from 9 to 11. There are other things that you can only get in baby phase, right? So you want to really look at time as a span. Sometimes time is a date, sometimes it's an occasion. It's the time to be celebrating a marriage. It's the time to be honoring that you've traveled together. My husband and I just had our 25th wedding anniversary. It was an occasion. It was the time to really remember and honor and celebrate what was happening. And it was also, sometimes things are through a cycle. Sometimes it is just, if you are someone who has a certain time of the year that you may have depression, or that it is certain season that you like to do things. That I live in Minnesota, that when we talk about summer, it is if the heavens open up in this state, that you don't call anybody in the summer, just show up at the door and be ready to grill, because everyone's outside, everyone is outside, and that's the cycle of summer. And if it's winter, it's just, oh gosh, can we make some cookies? So things have a cycle, they have a chronology. You might have a term. You may only have to look at time to go, it's only this time. When I look at students and they are sure that they are measured only by these grades, I just tell them, this is a term. You get your life back when this stint is done. That it's just this point in history in your life that'll be like this, that you'll never be a student like this again. So when you're thinking about time, it is a wider conversation. It's not just the tasks. It is sometimes just a point in history. So when you think about time, it is years. Yes, it is minutes. Yes, it is seconds, but it is your actual life. And I would go back and just look at your life. So if you are watching this on a video, I would just take a minute and pause right here and just go, I'm living this. What have I already lived? What were the chapters that are already here? What was my chapter working in the bar? What was my chapter working for my aunt? What was my chapter being a hairdresser? What was my chapter at going to school? What was my chapter living in Brazil? These are real chapters in my life. But it also helps you understand, when you go back and look at time, how many things you learned only in that chapter. There were things that I could only learn by writing a thesis. There were things that I could only learn with the invention of the internet. My most exciting part of the internet was the day I figured out I could read a book in any library in the world. It felt like the world had opened up to me in a way I couldn't even believe. So think about time. And when we look at time, right, I'm here to always talk about prosperity and prosperity mindset. Prosperity is the ability to magnify. And the reason that you want to understand your time is because you have to look out. You Time is not buckling down and going inward. A lot of time is really looking at what is the heavens of your future, the the impact of your actions, and the investments that you're making for your present self and your future self. But how are you magnifying? Is the fact that you are agitated 90% of the time what you want more of? Is what you want more of, does it need time? Yeah. So you want to really open up that from a prosperity mindset. And when I think about these two words, loving and losing time, that they are just one letter apart. And this is where I would take that journal question, that if you want to snap a picture to remember yourself for yourself, it is to understand that loving time and losing time really have a different connotation. And I would look at what has been lost. What have you lost from poor time management? And many times what you lost was a pattern that didn't serve you. You lost because you had a pattern that didn't serve you. So when you are thinking about time, I don't need you to just think about being a maximizer. It is to say time requires vision and voice. You want to shape your wisdom. And so when I get people who have a terrible relationship because they broke up with this love bond in managing time, it often is they have a lack of clarity, or they have conflicts with other people, or with the work that they're doing, or there's not enough reward, or they don't have support, or they just don't have the ability to balance the things that need to be balanced. And sometimes people just feel like they don't have any control over their time, or that they don't have enough tools. So think about in your notes today, what is it that would have broken the bond of time for you? And when we talk about this, I have done an enormous amount of research on this. I've worked with so many people on time and on prosperity. Remember, I have 60,000 hours of working in prosperity mindset with people. 60,000. And prosperity mindset, the ability to magnify, and time, they go hand in hand. And one of the things that I remind people is the largest culprit is right in the mirror. And that is that most people's largest barrier is not laziness. It is that they invite distraction. And they invite distraction in their phone. They invite distraction by just getting up and walking away, or talking to people, or having this, that invited distraction is the number one time waster. And number two is uninvited distraction. It is people coming into your door all the time, right? I managed a construction company as one of the projects that I did, and we had 35 employees. And as that leader, the amount of uninvited distraction that could be present was enormous. It it actually saved us a lot more time for me to have an assistant that was in front of my door to manage people coming to my door, that I if I kept my door closed and just put my assistant in front, they would go to her first to ask when they could have the time. And she could give them that way. So it was worth more to have someone help me with the uninvited distraction. And sometimes, again, just putting your phone in airplane mode it's a thing. And putting your phone in airplane mode is a tool that we can do. One of the other things that I remind people about is the waste of energy that happens from waiting. So if you are someone that puts things off, if you are someone that kind of just pushes it out of your mind till later, there is a real piece of exhaustion that comes from pushing things off. And from the neuroscience perspective, your brain uses 30% of every calorie of every body of every food that you eat. It's only 1% of your body weight, but it uses 30% of your energy in its waking hours, and it uses 20% in your sleeping hours. Your brain is hungry. If you ever wanted to have a reason to eat better, it is because your brain energy will be better. Junk food doesn't keep you in a positive brain role. So brain energy is important. And when we push things to the back of the task list and you hold it somewhere in your brain is using part of that capacity to hold all that garbage. And using that precious energy, that precious intellect to hold things that don't need to be held in that way, then you can just let it go. And letting it go is a real tool. And there are other videos on things like that. The next conversation I want to have is that a lot of people are masking, and masking also uses a lot of brain energy. And when we talk about masking, it is that you want to look a certain way. And the reason I bring it up in time management is because this is often a part of time that burns us out. So, time management is also putting yourself in positions, in situations where you can be your true self. And when we are not our true self and we put on this mask for a social image, right? The what people see, it's an expense to you in other ways, and that expense is that it makes your other time really trashed because you're exhausted, and you don't want to be exhausted in your personal time. So sometimes it is that I'll see people who are not efficient workers, that they are actually inefficient at tasks. So they'll stay late, they'll put in extra hours, they'll get that work done. But because they're doing all that other stuff and they're masking, like, oh, I got it, yep, they actually become distressed in every other area. And that time is only going to be spent leading to one outcome, and that one outcome is going to be burnout. So masking is something I want you to think about. And when we think about time, I would also think about the fact that time bends. So many people feel blocked because they don't want to invest in something new or big, because they don't know how the new and big will fit into the time as it stands today. And I used these images. This is actually my husband here. My husband is an ultra marathoner, and this happens to be him running a, um, a 200 miles. He's running the entire length of the North Shore. So he's running from Canada into uh, the upper part of Minnesota, and he's doing it in 4 days. So he's running 50 miles a day for 4 days. Oh no, it was 5 days maybe, but yeah. So he's running 50 miles a day for 4 or 5 days, and we only got one friend to go in. But when you think about time, how are we going to get that right? You think about it like this ultra race. There was no time that he could do great things. And one of the things that I had to say to him is that I said, look, pick a week out of any year and you can pick any crazy stunt that you want to do, and I'll do that with you. I will support you in all the crazy ideas that you have, and I'll take 1 week of my life out to do that. And I give 1 week to other people in my family. So time will bend to a situation. So you want to look at time not in the the confinement of your existing life, because he wouldn't be able to do that just on a weekend. We have to plan in advance. We have to open up time in the future to make sure that he can do those things. So when you're thinking about the block of, I want to have this other life, well, your other life doesn't fit in the way you have your time set up right now. We have to move your time. We have to bend that time to create a new situation. So you do have to get in and think about time differently. And when we think about that, I want you to think about, gosh, are you in love with your time, or do you have a loss of love? And is this time where you need to do a little identification game? And I would think about all the different parts of the rainbow of your life. what's open, what's closed, what's a future. And I would think about, what do you want to switch? What do you want to reframe? Where do you want to have more benefit? Do you need more time off? Do you need more collaboration? Do you need less hassle? Do you want to change your pattern? Do you want to partner with someone? Maybe you're going to rewire yourself, and that's really time consuming. Are you reinvesting? Are you reinventing? Perhaps it's time to pivot. Maybe it's time to go deeper. Are you waiting to relocate? So when we think about time, it's reviewing, how is your love affair going? And we scale the time and the tasks and the outcomes 100% of the time towards love. I don't want you to say, I like things. I like this more. I really like these things. I want you to focus on the time that you have the bite of that golden apple, the time when you have the fire energy, the time when you have the mojo. This is where you want your outcomes at. I want to be in love with the time that I have here, the time that we spend together. I want to be proud of the time that we spend together. So when I come into this slide, identifying areas that need improvement, often this is the very first place that leaders and I start. And that is looking at all of the exchanges that they do not enjoy. And I just need a thorough analysis of, what are the time exchanges that you do not enjoy? And then a second list, which is usually what we call a 2-page spread. So I really like to have 2 pages on each one. Again, pinpointing areas for growth and improvement. And then I would really look at this last one of assessing the benefits of collaborating with others to enhance the things that you don't enjoy. So I'll give you an example. I don't enjoy walking the dog when I have to do it and then try to make dinner at the same time. So I just need somebody to walk the dog while I make dinner. So there's a collaboration. So you guys walk the dog, get out of my kitchen, and I will be able to do this, right? Because if I'm trying to do all this stuff and it's just clunking my time down, it's not working for me. It's just not working. And that way I have a minute to breathe. So when we look at these time exchanges, it was worth it to me to have the neighbor boy come over and play with the dog than it was to try to do it all, right? That the dog is having a wonderful time, they have something to look forward to, I have something to look forward to. So assess those benefits of collaborating with others. One of the other simple things is that we just changed who made the bed, that it was just so much better to not have me doing that, because it just wasn't working. So you're going to need tools, and you're going to need time management tools. And that means you've got to get a timer. So, and oftentimes I'm going to teach you live if we were doing this one-on-one and going through your tools. So if you and I were having a private session together, we would have been looking at timers and timing within timers. So to give you an example, I would have 90 minutes set to go return all of my emails. And then I would set a smaller timer to say there's no single email that should take me more than 10 minutes during this 90-minute time. If I have a very long email that I need to put together because it's a proposal or it's something that requires a lot, I'm not going to put it into that 90-minute time, because the 90 minutes is to get all of it moved as fast as I can. So when you're thinking about timers, I also need you to think about timing within timers and how timers can improve your productivity. So using timers also can help you break tasks into smaller segments. And if you don't have a Pomodoro timer, or you don't know what a Pomodoro timer is, you'll want to learn that. It is a silent timer that you can put onto your desk. And I had a woman named Amy who introduced me to a timer. Her name is Amy, and she worked for a place that we were working with, oh gosh, almost 25 years ago, a place called Women Venture. It was where women could come and learn how to build a business. And Amy was the most efficient person that I ever met. Now, she actually went to work, went on to do really great things. And I said to Amy, I don't know how you get so much done. And she says, I live by a timer. And that 25 years ago changed my life, because sometimes I just have to understand my 30s. And what I mean by my 30s is that you really start to manage your time in 30-minute segments. When I'm working with a executive, I want them to time their 30s on the hours that they're home, because it will tell me a lot that their time is already regulated during the day, but it's really what's happening in their life, in their real life, that will tell you how prepared they are, how much recovery, how much restoration is coming from their personal time to be able to come in and do these superhuman jobs. For so many people, they think, oh, I can't wait to be in these higher upper level jobs. They require an enormous amount of brain power. And if you are not managing the whole spectrum of what's the chapter that we're in, right? What's the chapter that we're in? And what are the tasks that have to be done within that chapter? What is my personal chapter? And what are the things I'm investing in for me later and for the things that I'm trying to create, right? You see how time needs that caress. It needs our love. It needs us to really be in love with it. So when you think about that time is a field, this is really the methodology is work your fields. So it is an agrarian conversation. It is a methodology. Sometimes this is people talking about their North Star. Sometimes people use this as, I'm working with my values. I have to make sure I'm doing the values work that's important. So looking at time management is sometimes saying, am I spending my time doing the things that are pointed towards my North Star? Is this going to plant the field that I want? Am I working my field? Am I planting? Am I harvesting? Am I watering? Where am I in this process? So sometimes we talk about time as a field. And I mean that as a literal field, like a field that's growing corn or hay or clover, is to understand that working methodology. Where are you? Are you planting? Are you barren? Is it time to harvest some of those things? And if it's time to harvest, if you don't harvest when it's ready, it just falls and rots. So it doesn't just, a field of flowers doesn't just stay flowering. They all die. So even if it's majestic and beautiful now, you may need to harvest those things. The North Star method is pretty common. It is to say, what is the thing that drives you? And a lot of times that leads you to values work. Now, this slide is actually the one that people, this is where you start to self-identify, and that is understanding spatial reminders and note-taking. So spatial reminders are things, right, that you see. And when we think about note taking in general, a lot of times we'll just put a sticky note on something. Some of you have sticky notes that are 3 or 5 years old. Some of you put your values on a sticky note. These are spatial reminders, and they are there to help you improve your memory. But many people are paper people, that sometimes if you think about something that you left on your desk, you know what color it is. This is a spatial reminder. So some of you really need sticky notes. Some of you need paper calendars. Some of you use pop-ups on your phone. These are spatial reminders, that I have a visual reminder that tells me something. And that allows my brain to rest because I've placed it somewhere and I don't have to hold it in the backlog of my brain. And so if you are a sticky note person, if you are someone that writes lists, things like that, a lot of times for people who have a very packed calendar with lots of different cases. So for me, I have a lot of different cases. So they are different colors on my calendar. So those of you who love color coding, you like a spatial reminder. And if you are someone that color codes in general, a lot of times you might not remember exactly what's in that quadrant, but you remember that it's red or yellow or pink or green. This is a rainbow, right? We can sing a rainbow. You are looking at spreadsheets or grids that this is why we organize tasks and information in colors because it helps us spatially remind them. It makes a little map in our brain. So when you think about a visual reminder, I actually need you to understand the neuroscience is that a visual reminder is actually not about the color. It is not about the visual. It is actually a tool to give your mind the spatial connotation of making a map in your brain that you can pull up. Now, the number C, letter C, is the greatest tip I could give you today. And that is the importance of making notes to yourself before you're clocking out of a project. Especially if you're working on a really big project, you want to give yourself just 2 to 5 minutes to go, okay, I have to leave this project. I might have been in flow, I might be whatever, but I need to write myself some notes. And the notes are right for yourself tomorrow or for your future self, especially if you're working on a project that you're going to shut down for a week and come back to. So you want to write yourself very detailed notes. The notes that you have when you're leaving or clocking out of a project will change the relationship in your brain. And the Carlson School of Management, there's a professor there who I love her. And she gave 25 years to this research. So there's real data on this. So when you are getting out of a project and you're closing it down for the day and you're coming back, you have a really much higher capacity to go back into your flow state immediately. You do not have to wait and build up to it. It will spatially remind the brain, oh yeah, I want to go back into that flow state. That's where I was. Yeah, that's where I was. So making notes to yourself before you clock out of any project, any file, because you're going to pick it up later. So really focus on the end of the day notes. And that's telling yourself what you have to do tomorrow, what you have to do this week, what was left undone, what do you need to remind yourself of, that those end of day notes really critical. Now, in time, it is to say, I have this amount of time and I have this amount of tasks. So when we think about time in general, right, the week, the month, the year, I do need you to start thinking about how you batch tasks. And it's not just saying, hey, I have these 10 things to do. It is to say, I'm going to allow my time to be assembled in a way that has some rules around it. And task batching is one of those rules, which is I'm going to take all of the similar tasks and I'm going to put them in a group. So you have to take the time to batch. And if it's 15 minutes or less, those are tasks that can get batched. If it's 45 minutes or longer, no way. You've got to put it on as a calendar item to get that far. So think about what needs to be batched and what doesn't need to be batched. So I give an example of I have like 6 things that need to get done in the garage. Okay, great. I'm going to put all those tasks in a little group. I've got to get the Christmas tree moved. I got to do this. I got to wash the cars, whatever that is. And I just put them into a group and now it's garage day. So when you think about task batching, you're really going to put all those to-dos together in some form of function because you want to be able to get them done. Many people, especially high achieving people, and anyone who is going through their life managing their ADHD, is that you have to understand when a task is actually layers of a task and not just a task. So you may have to actually pull it apart to understand the task. So when somebody says, "Oh, just do this," and you know it's not just this, that lets you know that there's layers of this task. And so you have to identify the layers of the task. The way that I explain this is laundry. Now, uh, I had a large amount of children in a house, and I came from a family that had a large amount of children in a house. And laundry is not just simply picking up clothes and putting them in the washer and that's magically done. In laundry, there is gathering of laundry. There's gathering of laundry from many people's rooms. There's gathering of laundry and then getting it to one location, then sorting it into the loads. Then there's washing each one of those sort piles, moving it to the dryer, then moving it to folding, and then putting it into the right basket so that it can get to the room that it's going to. And then it's getting it into the drawers and the closets. So this is actually several steps, not just one. But a lot of people just write on their list, I got to get my laundry done. Because in their mind, they're just like, yeah, it's all these tasks. But when we're doing projects, you can't just put that in. You have to unwrap all those layers, like an artichoke, right? You just peel it off and take that bite. You peel it off. For those of you who have tasks that have a lot of layers, you want to learn how mise en place works. So mise en place is understanding that you want to do the background tasks first. So in my life, it is to say, let me just get the dishes in the dishwasher and run that dishwasher while I'm at work. Because when I come home, all the dishes are done. If I am someone who has a lot of laundry, let me just put a load in before I go. Let me put a load in as soon as I wake up. And then when I'm done getting everyone out the door, let me move that load. Now it's had enough time. Now I can push it into the dryer. And now I can go to work all day. And now I can also then put another load in the wash. So I can start to move things in the background first. Anything in your life that requires a machine that can do something while you're not there, like a dishwasher, like something else. For those of you who have an assistant, the first task that has to be in your time zone, the first task always is to give someone those background tasks. So having that minute in the morning to go, what has to get done and what are the tasks that everyone else has to do? So for me, I will say to my husband, hey, these are the things that we'll need for dinner. This is the schedule of where all the kids are going. Let's just work out the plan, right? Sitch. We call it sitch. What's the sitch? And we get all of those background tasks done first. So that's often saying to someone in the family, I'll need to meet you here, or you better pack a snack because we're moving fast when I get you. That these are making sure that there are background tasks available. This is actually where, in my life, the snack bin in the car came, is by understanding that we are always moving, that I didn't have to drive through and get garbage food if I supported myself in the background by just making sure there was healthy snacks in the car. It was a really simple thing to get done to support myself. And it's very, very many times there's someone, foraging through the back seat to find something to snack on. And yes, this is my face on here. Ta-da! For those of you who are actually quite horrible at making lists at the beginning of the day, one of the first places we'll start is the ta-da! Ta-da! is to reverse engineer your time, is to really start putting in a list at the end of the day. We do this for about 3 weeks, is to do the to-do list. This is reverse engineering your time, and it will look at what you're naturally trying to finish. And sometimes that gives me layers of information. Sometimes that lets me know that sometimes you're just standing up for what matters in your life, that you are really doing those things first. Sometimes you're stuck in a pattern of doing tasks because you didn't make a plan for someone else to do those tasks. And sometimes it's just forgetting that it takes a half hour to feed the dog and the fish and fill the bird feeder and do these other things, that you actually have to put that on as a task list. If you're running out of time in the morning, let's just see what you're doing in your morning. So a to-do list is a really great tool. Now, for those of you who are building things that you have to, you are really looking for ways to capture information, the second brain model, and that's Tiago Forte, there is a lot of information around the second brain. This is a life-changing conversation because everyone who is in a busy life needs to really understand letter D, which is what are your capturing methods. The second brain is based on one of the slides we had at the very beginning, right? You're doing something today for your future self. And what my friend Ali says is, and this is where everyone fights me on, and this is because everyone is really good at stuff and they have a high comprehension level, they have a high capacity. But this is the agreement. If you want to work the second brain system, Ali's right. You have to agree. You have to be able to really understand that these garbage notes that you're taking right now actually aren't supporting you, and your future self is never going to remember them. And the way that Ali says it is, your future self is a dumbass and doesn't know what you were doing. It's not going to remember. It's never going to remember. And that's true. I have looked back at papers. I don't even know that I wrote that. Sometimes I'll read something and I'm like, wow, that's really good. I don't know how I wrote that. Or I don't know what this note means. So you have to understand that if you are using information that you have to pick up again, you want to offload that information. Your brain is not there to hold information. That's the first thing that you have to understand about tasks and time. So you are not supposed to use your time to manage all of this information in your head. Time is to be present in and to make situational decision making at the present moment, is to be free to react to the world that you're living in at the present moment. It is not to try to store and remember everything in your brain. It's just the wrong pattern. And the more deluxe and incredible your life is, the more creativity you put in there, the more you must understand that you need a second brain. And you need a second brain that has a storage system, that has a way for you to find that information. And that's around capturing the things that are important, that's really looking at your storage methods and your retrieval methods. How do you get that back? So having notes on your phone is a really great way to start. So there's other videos on this for me and from other people. You can go back. Here's a really interesting piece. Dressing better. It's these are two different studies that came up around oil of Olay and Maybelline, but basically one of them started, I don't remember the order of these, but what is the benefit of just looking at your face for 10 extra minutes in a day? And you could put makeup on or not, but just looking at your face. Men do this regularly if they're shaving, but what is the benefit to you just looking at your face for 10 minutes? And what they found is that you had greater self-esteem, but you were also more productive. And so it's also around dressing better. This next statistic, so that led to this other ones. And this other piece of information is that 77% of people confess that they are not satisfied with their wardrobe, how their clothes look on them. And this means they're not satisfied with their appearance the majority of the time. And that is a productivity killer. So it's also something that affects your self confidence and your self esteem. Many people use clothing as a mask, that they will dress a certain way, right? They wear a suit, they wear a tie, they dress a certain way, so that sometimes that is a mask. And that was the huge change that you had in the internet, in the dot-com boom, right? Where you saw people go, I'm not going to put that mask on. I'm not going to, I don't need a suit to feel good about what I'm doing. I'm just going to put on some jeans. Or you saw people who said, I'm just going to put on a uniform and I'm going to wear that uniform every day. So you have to feel good about what you look like, because you want to spend some time looking at your actual face. So you need to spend time looking at yourself in the mirror. And you have to have time to put on clothes that make you feel confident. And having those tools is an investment of time. The time study is often, I remind people, it's only 3 weeks. A time study only needs 21 days. Sometimes I will do a time study on a department. So because I'm a business strategist, sometimes I'll do a time study on a process, on a department, on a flow. But time study, the point of time study is that it gives you strategic ability. So it gives you the ability to make strategy. So just learning really basic times. So I have a rental house. So just learning, really running the math, really putting it into my phone and saying it takes 20 minutes to get from one door to the next is very helpful. So when I have to go see that tenant, who lovingly is my son, I will remind them before I leave. I have two things to do before I go, and don't forget, it's 20 minutes door to door driving without traffic. That gives us an ability to make strategy. Is this something that you can solve before I can even get there? Is the 20 minutes of time for me to get to you appropriate? So time study is a tool that's going to give you strategic ability. One of the things that you really need to understand is how long it takes you to do your tasks. So these are basic tasks. How long does it take to do the dishes? How long does it take to do that item? Most people have a gross exaggeration of how long something takes them to do. And again, it's 3 weeks. Really look at those 3 weeks. So, and I break them up into 30-minute intervals. You'll want to know what you're doing every 30 minutes. And it's helpful. So do them for your tasks, do them for your routes, do them for your screens, your habits, your cooking, all of it. If you noticed, every person, uh, every recipe you've looked up since the beginning of time gives you how long it takes to make that. This takes you an hour. This takes 3 hours. This takes 5 hours. This takes 30 minutes, because you need that strategic ability. And getting a large meal with multiple components on the table all hot at the same time requires strategy. So if you've ever hosted a big meal with family, it is strategy. It is strategy. This is a hidden pattern. And I love hidden patterns, and everybody has one. So one of the tips I give people around time is to really look at, what is the hidden pattern? When I do this, then I need to do this other thing too. So when I sit down and watch TV, I need a bowl of popcorn. When I do this, I need to do this too. When I do this, I need to do this too. And it's really looking at these hidden patterns that you have, and you don't really know that you're doing it. So a lot of people used to listen to music when they were driving to work, or they would listen to the radio, and now they're listening to podcasts or a book. So sometimes just knowing when I do this, I need to do this. One of the tools is understanding what are the hidden patterns. And one of the hidden patterns might be that when you're talking on the phone, you need to make notes. Or I watch people a lot of times sit in a meeting and immediately open their phone. And that doesn't actually make that meeting go well. Another thing that I bring up as a time tool, if you have not understood time blocking, it is the greatest investment that you can make into saying, here's a block of time that I need that. You'll see me do it on stage a lot, just of talking about the purpose of boundaries. The purpose of a boundary is to keep something in, not to keep something out. If you have not read the book, The 12-Week Year, it is a book that I hold an accountability group for. So you can come to that accountability group, and it's not very much money. It's under $200, but it is a 12-week accountability group where you are with other people, you're putting your group together, and you're all working on your stuff every week. I think it's magic because I've watched people do it, and I've done many rounds of it myself. So it's really the key to that is time blocking, and to say during this time I'm doing these things. And the first part of time blocking, 100% of the time, is to put in for yourself time for you, time for you. And the other thing that the 12-week year does really a great job of is it reminds people to take on fewer goals and use the time sprints. So a time sprint is really just saying, look, I'm just going to focus on these next 12 weeks. I'm not going to do the whole year. And what the 12-week year is saying is really, let's take the three most important outcomes that you have, and let's look at everything you want done with them. Now figure out how to do it in 12 weeks. That's really what it is. The other task that I remind people is another blocking, which is to learn these 2-minute blocks, is to really learn how to do something quickly. So in 2 minutes, you just set a timer for 2 minutes, and then as quickly as you can, this is a great strategy for deleting emails. This is a great strategy for quick tidy. This is a great strategy to just go, let me look at what's on my desk for 2 minutes. It's a great strategy. It's astonishing how much you can get done in 2 minutes. It's worth adding in as a fun tool, because again, you're there to fall in love with your time. We want to fall in love with time, and you have to keep it exciting. You have to be in love with time because it is your most precious. You are exchanging your life for it. The things that you are doing right now in your day, you are exchanging your actual life for. Now, the 5 4 3 2 1 method is, again, Mel Robbins. She wrote a book on that. The strategy is valuable where you just do the countdown, 5 4 3 2 1 go. And it's really how to jolt your brain out of being lax about not getting going. So getting out of bed, you just count down 5 4 3 2 1 go, and you stand up. It is retraining your brain to consistently snap in at that one. 5 4 3 2 1 let's go. And it's ridiculously effective. It is ridiculously effective. I just want to touch again on delegation and collaboration. If you were not liking it in slide 5, I'm just resubmitting it in slide 33. That it is, you want to figure out more on delegation and collaboration, because since I talked about it last and having it come up again, you may have already thought, how can that happen? How can that work for you? And you want to really understand the difference between tasks and outcomes. So a task is really saying, this is what I'm going to do. An outcome is to say, look, I'm trying to have a 10% growth for the year. I want to have 50% less time doing accounting procedures, that you're looking for that outcome. And you want that in a sentence form, and you want to really look at what are the tasks that have to be done and assign those. Now, there are many times that there is downtime. Downtime is also a way to think about how to build safety. So every schedule has downtime, and that's a time for you to take a breath. It's a time for you to re-strategize, but downtime is the time that you should be doing repairs and safety checks. This is a picture that I took out at the Mall of America, and we have executive walking group out here. And executive walking group is at 7 a.m. The mall isn't open for another 3 hours, and we walk in there with just every different kind of person. And during that time, the mall is doing all of its safety checks. And that downtime means that they're ready for the day. So when you have repairs and things like that, you want to really make time to build in the safety checks of your life. So you want to have downtime, enough downtime to do the things that you kind of need to do. And that is, right, making sure the furnace works, making sure that you have these repair items worked out on a day, that you have scheduled time for repair and safety. So if you want a pattern that is always functioning and flowing, you actually have to have downtime to make sure that all of the machinery is working, that all of the things are put together, that your bank accounts are working, that you know your logins, that you know all of these things, that you've got your driver's license, that you may need paperwork for your ability to travel. There are so many pieces that, and when I look at people who have very broken lives where nothing works and they feel just so aggravated, ugh, right? Their their pants aren't hemmed, their car's not working, that they broke the handle on this, that they can't get into that drawer, that just it's just all of these small repairs that never get done. So if you have a lot of clutter, if you have a lot of things that aren't put away, if you have a desk that looks like a disaster zone, you have to build downtime because you need that safety. Uh, I did it just today that I went, you know what? I'm going to go just check this online folder. And in it, I was rewarded with a gift that someone had sent me that I had forgotten about from 2 years ago. And it was a $50 gift card that they had sent me as an email. And I went, oh, well, this is why I take the time to do safety checks, right? To look at past emails or to review what is there. And what I was doing is I was just making sure that all the receipts that I had needed were in the receipts folder. So I was just going through this pile of email, and just saying, let me make sure that all the receipts are properly put in. For those of you who are behind on accounting, that's a repair and a safety check. For those of you who are not keeping track of the things that you should be, that's a safety check. For those of you who have no idea what's in your cupboard, that's a safety check. You should know what you have. And so take that time. Developing a game plan. So goal setting and action planning are different things. But you need both of them to reconnect to time, to a timeline. You need goals and actions both to come into time. You have to create a vision for your time. And that vision has to align with your passion and your strength. and you have to come up with implementation strategies to infuse these new ideas and the energy that it takes to do the management of time. It takes energy. It takes energy. And this is where we learn the concept, the prosperity concept of unity. Now, this is a picture that was taken in Utah. This is a real place, and it really does look like this, only 20 minutes a day. So when you are thinking about all those beautiful colors, this is the sun going down in this particular space. You have to go in advance, that you can only go in with a guide. It's a it is a highly regulated sacred space. So this picture is a real place, is what I wanted you to know. So the prosperity concept is unity. Unity is a tool, and when you're thinking about time, you want to understand that the wisdom that you're looking for in that relationship to time is unity. And the unity that you're looking for is, again, this harmony, this melding, this intermixing. You're looking for that symphony. But the reason I chose this image was because you want the fire. You want that mojo. You don't want the burnout energy. You want that mojo energy. You want something to look forward to. You want harmony. You want all of the things to move together. You want the dishes to wash themselves while you're at work. You want the clothes to dry themselves while you're on your way. You want the neighbor to come walk the dog so you can make your meal. You're looking to have unity with time. And that unity isn't just enrapturing, right? It's not to be just, wow, I need my time to wow me. No, I don't. I need to be one with my present life. I have to have enough done on the outside so that I can be me on the inside. Let me say that again, because that's really critical information. I have to manage all the things that are coming in, right? All of these things on the outside of me so that I can do the things that I need to on the inside of me. Now, there are many things that are going to interrupt my pattern, but the more that I know my North Star, the more I understand my values, the more that I've built harmony with time in general, the easier it is to manage that symphony when it's got a squawk or that something's going to interrupt it. So one of the things that I remind people about with small children is this is the time to be with small children. It's not the time to try to get all your stuff done. So give up trying to do these other things and just enjoy your baby. Just enjoy your baby. That's the unity that you want with this time, is that you are incorporating this symphony and that you're using your energy in a way that creates that mojo. And the mojo is what you need for long-term passion, for long-term growth. So mojo energy is how people stay sustained and really excited about what they're doing. And if you want to look at people who are like have figured it out, that's what they figured out, is unity. They figured out that prosperity concept of unity. So going back to what are you doing, right? We're identifying strategies that you can stay in love with time. And that's what you're looking for, is you want to renew your love affair with time. You want to reconfirm what's there, and you want to establish routines that help promote you growing. So that growth may be something super simple. My daughter and my son-in-law just go, it's Fitness Friday. So every Friday they just go work out together. That they can both keep their fitness goal. They both have way too much time with two kids at home, right? They both have a full-time job and they're both doing all of these things. And so just Fitness Friday. We get to be together, we can work out together, and boy, we feel good. We feel good. And they can just do that one thing. They can just do that one thing. It's every week. It's Fitness Friday. And they do it while the kids are at school, so they can be alone together and they can have that time. So you want ritual. Rituals in your time are very helpful. So revisiting and adjusting your game plan is going to be critical. Now, this is a fun way to kind of think about time is to hashtag it. So when you're hashtagging it, I'm just going to be like, hey, hashtag getting better than math, right? Getting better at math. That's my goal. So if you have goals, right? Fitness Friday, right? It's just these things. So when you're thinking again about these long-term relationships, these long-term strategies, really learn to hashtag them, right? Weird and wild, right? Going to Greece, happy dancing with birds, right? It's just you've got to get it so simple that you can just click at it. And if you can fit it into a hashtag, it can become a ritual. Now, some of you are going to be hearing this on audio, and some of you are watching this on YouTube. Some of you are rewatching this, but the picture that is up is the pink door. And the pink door is a love door. And that pink door is really there to say, what can be removed from your life? What can be removed from your time? And we lovingly and thoughtfully just show it to the pink door. And that pink door is that I lovingly excuse the things that don't belong. So when it comes to something that I feel obligated to do, I'm just going to send it to the pink door. I'm going to visually put that pink door in my mind, and I'm going to just sit there for 30 seconds. And I'm going to ask myself, what needs to be removed from my time? What needs to be removed from my time? Lawn mowing definitely needs to be removed from my time. That I love mowing the lawn, but I don't actually have time to mow the lawn. It needs to go to the pink door. And that's where that collaboration comes in, right? So when you're thinking about the things that need to be removed from your time list, lovingly, thoughtfully, graciously, honestly, just send them to the door. Some of you have people that need the pink door. Some of you have relationships that need to go to the pink door. Some of you have habits and obsessions that need to go to the pink door. Some of you have relationships that are based on really inconvenient circumstances. Show it the door. We're going to lovingly and kindly and gently send it to the door and let it find a new life on the other side. Let it find something better on the other side. So this next set of slides is really just quick things that you can start to ask yourself as a question or just a fast strategy, because we're almost done. I think we're at slide 42. So we're at slide 41 out of 50. So we're going to tick through these next 9 really quick. And what is a playful surprise you can add to your time? One of the playful surprises that I didn't know that I had was adventure, right? Where's an adventure? How can you add time for adventure? One of the things that I do with my friends is that I invite them to go visit and do a Google review with me. So I have taken a lot of really great images in my life. You saw some of them here. If you are watching this on YouTube, or if you're in one of my other slideshows, that I take a lot of very interesting images, and that I wanted those images to be seen. So I started doing Google reviews and started taking more interesting pictures. And so some of the times I'll just say to people, hey, I want to go review this small business owner because I want to give them a Google review that's positive, that's deeper, that has some value, and I want to gift that to that person. Do you want to go with me? And it's just one way, right? Just one way. Another strategy is really leveraging your technology differently. So one of the things that you will want to look at is if you have a poor relationship to technology, that's the first thing to fix. That's your first strategy. And you want to have all your tech devices, every tech device that we have has some sort of time tool, whether it's a computer, whether it's your Fitbit, whether it's your phone, they all have time tools. And you want to learn how to leverage your technology more effectively. So sometimes I only have a capturing method of my phone. So I don't want to forget that. So I'm going to send myself a note to remind myself that later. So I have an Apple phone. So I'll just say, hey, Siri, remind me at 6 o'clock that I need to call so and so. Okay, great. So that's a way to leverage technology effectively. Just remind me later because I'm not gonna waste that precious brain energy to try to remind myself to call Chris Thomas. That I'm going to really just go, okay, remind me later. When we think about dopamine, dopamine is candy. It is candy. You want a dopamine strategy, and you want that dopamine strategy is going to become around organizational tools that come into your daily routine. So if you are looking at things that you got done, accomplishment is a dopamine hit. The number one thing that you will get from understanding time and tasks that you do within time and getting into flow and getting your mojo in is that as you effectively use time, you will get a dopamine hit and you will get more energy. It isn't that it's going to take things away. It's going to give you all that sweetsy. And that's what I talk about when we're looking at rituals and systems. You want to really focus on these rituals in your life. What's your morning routine? What are you eating? How are you deciding how to eat healthy? How are you feeding your brain? Because your brain is the most, if you haven't fallen in love with the neurology of your brain, you might want to, because that is what you need to get all these systems working. So all of the things that you're doing need to support the life that you want. And so you want to think about what you want to dream about and writing those down and directing it in money, directing it in your career, directing it in your personal growth, directing it in your travel, in your relationships, in your education. Education is not permanent. Education used to last 7 years. Now it lasts 3. Your phone doesn't even last for 7 years. So your computers don't even do that for 7 years. That technology is moving at a rapid pace. Our lives are moving at a rapid pace. You are learning and seeing and doing so much more. My great grandmother probably saw 4 movies in a year. Think about that. Think about how much time you've spent consuming just imagery from cinema. So you want to build systems and put rituals together that support all the parts of your life that need extra support. If you are someone that loves cinema, make the list of the cinemas you want and go, I'm going to complete this list. These are the things that are important to me. You have to stand up for what's important, and you have to do that with integrity and grace. And you want to stand up for the things that matter for you with how you spend your time because it's precious. It is precious. You are precious. And the daily love is what I call the popsicles of joy. That 20 minutes is again so important that I love journaling and I love mindful isolation and I encourage everyone to find it on any day. You don't have to do it every day because I don't live that life either, but you want this 20 minutes anywhere and you want to write about your popsicles of joy. How does something bring you joy? And how does that joy make you better at your time management? How does that make you better at time management? And so when we look at this conversation around time, I need you to rewrap your head around that time is much wider, it's much bigger. The task management is only part of the game. So you want to think about, how does something bring you joy? And how does that joy make you better at managing time, your time? How is it that you are going to make time to stand outside with the neighborhood, which we do every Thursday? How are you going to make sure that you have time every Thursday to stand outside in the summer for the ice cream truck? That's that popsicle of joy, right? Making sure that we're home in time to be out there with all those little kids in our neighborhood and just enjoying that moment that we all get to have, that popsicle of joy. But with that, we have to do some prep work. And sometimes it is really asking yourself those mindful isolation questions. It is also how you clear the trauma. It is also how you clear the trauma. There's a whole nother video on trauma, so you can go to that one as well. Rewards. Reward has to be when you are looking at time. If your time doesn't have a reward, if there's no dopamine hit, you ain't going to play. You will avoid it. You will put it off. You will not do it. It is not going to work 100% of the time. You must look at what is the reward. And so when you are looking at reward, it means that it has to have meaning and it has to have context. So many times I have to reframe the situation. And this is a real one that I had with somebody where I'd ask them, how's their savings goal? Because they are saving for a new car. And we knew that their car payment was going to be about this amount because we knew about what size car they were going to have. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing I only had $150 that I could add to savings this week. And I went, oh my gosh, so you banked 30% of a car payment? You did? That's great. And they went, wow, did I really? Yeah, you banked that. That's great. And suddenly it was fun. Now 150 was really fun. Yep, there's 30% because it gave them meaning and context towards their reward. So reframing. You could spend an entire day on this one slide in your life, on this one concept. You could spend a whole day on reframing. But reward is only a reward if it has meaning and it has context. So focus there. That's a great strategy. It is who. Who. I should have put an owl on this picture. So if you were watching this on YouTube, you see a bunch of flamingos. That who is going to get you where you want to go. So you need to really think about WHO. It is more important if you're going into new territory than how. So who can help me find a printer so that I can make new products? Who can help me write this book? Who can help me walk the dog? Who can help me do these other things? You want a who list. And that who list, I assign every single year. What are the things you're thinking about? Now, who are the people we need to get on the team? You want to think about a team. The capacity of our lives. I don't live a life that I can manage as one person because there are many projects going, there are many people that are being served by me, and there are many things that have to be done. So I always need other people to help me do things. So you want to think about who is helping you do something. Who can help you write the thing that you need to do? Who can help you finish that? Who can do these things? So think about who. I bring this back up one more time is because I want you to really think about it. And I want you to think about it from the other side. At the very beginning, an hour and 30 minutes ago, what I had said to you was loving and losing on time are just one letter apart. And when you think about what you've lost out of your time management, I do want you to think about what you have loved in your time. And that I think is the greatest clue to move forward because once you understand what you love doing, what brings you that fire mojo energy, what really helps sustain you, what is the experiences and the learning and the thoughts that shape all of this wisdom that you are right now. When you look at what you have loved in your time, it really helps you give that North Star. It helps you understand your greater goals. It helps you diagnose where you are. Now I'm on the second to the last slide. And the love that I want to leave you with is to remind you that you are prosperity mindset. We all have the ability to utilize this non-material energy to create things in the material world. So we think about things and then we build them. We anticipate them and then we animate them. But the big thing is you characterize and then you convert. You have to get an idea around time because you have to characterize all of the things that are happening in this magical whirlwind of your life. You live a life that nobody else does. That it is complex, it is interesting, it is truly the it is the outcome of every hour you've spent on earth. But you have to characterize it. And then you have to decide what you want to convert it to. Because if you don't, it will cost you. It will cost you. And it will cost you by not changing your patterns. It will cost you by not getting to really bear the fruit that you want because you're not watering your field. You're not harvesting when you should. So you want to remember, you are prosperity mindset. You have the ability to use that beautiful brain of yours. And we use that by characterizing and then we convert. We think, then we build. We anticipate and then we animate. The final slide you've seen before. These are the four pieces. These are the four reasons why you and I just spent the last hour and a half together is self-reflection, delegation, collaboration, making a game plan, and sustaining your passion. That's what you want to be. You are changing. The way that you relate to time is changing, and the investments that you'll make are changing. And that's fabulous. So that's what we're there to do. So I want to thank you so much for being willing to be present, to listening to this, to enjoying our time together because it's meaningful. And I am honored that you would consider spending all of this time with me. And I'm excited to see how you build it in the future. So thank you so much. My name is Mickey Mikeworth. I am your guide through today's topic on falling in love with time. And I will see you here in class. Bye.